maybe I said that shit to my boyfriend because he got Tupac killed.
Puff had witnesses that come in to testify against Sean and say they saw Sean do the shoot.
Well, it's not uncommon for allegations in civil lawsuits to be considered by federal investigators and federal prosecutors and reviewed to determine whether or not a federal crime may have been committed. And that seems to be what happened here. I thought it was interesting that the attorney's statement really basically confirmed for the public that some of the investigative interest was likely generated from these lawsuits, which is interesting because several of the lawsuits allege activity that likely would fall within the parameters of sex trafficking. Several of these women claim to have been transported from one state to another and then drugged and assaulted, or his former girlfriend who claims to have been forced to perform sex acts with different people in different states as they traveled around the country. So I think it was an unfortunate almost admission by the lawyer.
Diddy's done for. At least that's what former FBI agents got to say about it. Now, the cases against the music mogul are stacking up, and it looks like Diddy's lawyers are looking to settle as many of them as they can out of court. Now, they don't want the details of Diddy's horrific crimes to see the light of day. I hope that man is one part Scrooge McDuck, because he's going to need a lot of bank for all these lawsuits.
So why the search warrant simultaneously? Well, again, at the attorney's direction, we can now look to the civil suits for clues. And one of them, for me, is that several of these victims alleged that Mr. Combs and his associates videotaped these sexual encounters. So that is exactly the kind of evidence that you would want to go to someone's home to see if you could find. So I would expect that that was probably included in the search warrants, both at the same time, because once you hit one house, the subject knows that you're probably going to hit the other houses looking for the same stuff. So you're better off doing them if you have probable cause in two locations, you're better off doing them at once. And finally, the roundhouse swing he took at the show of force, really kind of classic defense attorney tactics to try to turn around a bad press day. But in fact, Mr. Combs has a long history of being investigated for things like assaults, harassment, threatening people with baseball bats and kettlebells and things like that. And the way it works in law enforcement is when you are planning a search warrant, if you have any information, and it doesn't have to be a criminal conviction, just intelligence that indicates that someone who's going to be at that residence may have a violent history or have armed themselves against people in the past, you're going to automatically qualify that search warrant or classify it as armed and dangerous. And that classification alone brings an additional level of protection, of tactical preparedness to ensure that there's no problems, that everything is done in as safe a way as possible.
The feds raided several of Diddy's mansions in April of 2024, the suspected locations for all of these infamous freak-offs. Based on Lil Rod's court filings, they believe that every corner of Diddy's multi-million-dollar homes is bugged. Now, they walked out of Diddy's homes with surveillance cameras and laptops. Now, once they decrypt that data, Diddy's gonna go on trial for sex crimes dating back to the 90s.
If it's true that they found a lot of weapons at his homes, what do you think this could mean?
Well, what happens here is that the federal government started a case with him. Apparently the search warrant that had his houses in Miami and LA was pre-planned already. They knew they were going to do that. So they have a much bigger case. Right now with the guns, they're going to check them, they're going to trace them, see if they were used in any crimes. They're going to go over anything about cooperators that are cooperating with them. They're going to be talking to a lot of people about certain criminal acts that he might have committed, and then go from there.
Experts are going on record to say that sex crimes are just the tip of the iceberg. Finally, a tip Diddy don't like. Now, the man's managed to get away with serious assault charges, possession charges, and criminal acts for years now. While the feds might have executed search warrants for sex crimes, they also discovered illegal firearms at Diddy's mansions too.
To the shooting that night?
Well, I get the phone call. It was late at night, and I was told to get to the Midtown North Precinct because they already had, I didn't go to the scene of the shooting at first because they already had picked up Puffy and J-Lo and Shine. And I was told to go to the precinct, which I did. And when I got there, I think all the attorneys applauded me. Ed Hayes, Harvey Slovis, all the guys were there. Because I knew right away, because they had a barricade up where the attorneys to wait outside. And as soon as I got there, I knew it, that these guys were like They were waiting for their clients. They were right at the scene. And then when I saw Chief King, I remember his name. He was the duty chief. He was like, Derek, you're in charge. Like, I'm just going to assist you. You tell me what you need to get done. But it really wasn't my case. It was the squad's case. It was the Midtown South squad because it occurred on their land and their jurisdiction. Even though we were at the North, Midtown North, we had to go back to Midtown South. But by then, Matt McDonough's got involved, the DA. He was kind of difficult to deal with, but he got involved and then he took over the investigation with the Midtown South squad. Okay. I just really assisted them.
Speaking of which, the feds are also looking into reopening some of Diddy's old cases. Now, most notably, the 1999 shooting. Now, Shine's already served time for the incident, but according to recent court findings, Diddy orchestrated the whole thing.
And was convicted for her injuries. A man already did time for her injuries. You understand? If they would have to go back and see that if there was ballistic tests done on Jennifer Lopez, on Puffy, God bless the dead, on Wolf, did they do ballistic tests? And then see if they did ballistic tests and Puff had gunpowder on him, you understand? Why didn't the police go through with charging him? Why didn't the police charge him? She could say that now, and she said that I don't take nothing from the victim. I don't take nothing from the victim. But her lawyer should have advocated. I know Puff and Shine, they had the same charges. But like I said before, and like Shine said also, Shine said this also, because it's true. Puff had witnesses that come in to testify against Shine and say they saw Shine do the shooting.
Now, it might be hard to try Diddy for the case since Shine already served 10 years for it. But reportedly, the feds had new information that might get Diddy locked up. According to the music mogul's former associates, he bribed several witnesses then to name it Shine as the shooter.
Oh, you know what? Rap was different back then. When Puffy was out, or I call him Puffy, then you call him P. Diddy now. When he was out, a lot of the cases that he had problems with people. When he went out to clubs or people in the music industry, it was something that was expected back then, because you got to remember, this was a different time. It was in the 90s going into the 2000s where rap music was really exploding into the major music industry, becoming a big phenomenon. Rap took over pop music and everything else. What happened, like I said, P. Diddy he was involved in a lot of stuff. So I got called because I had created this hip hop squad. The chief and the commissioner wanted somebody to deal who was knowledgeable of the violent acts in the rap community. They didn't understand that there were so many problems in this rap community with rappers being perpetrators, being victims, and things such as that. So they wanted me to create a unit to deal with them. So I had to be out at night, at bars, at clubs, at concerts, and things like that. Not putting cases on them or following them, but to look out to make sure that there was no violence, or how I could try to quell the violence in this community.
Is Diddy's temper really as bad as what we hear?
I never saw Diddy's temper like that, but I didn't work closely with him in business. When he dealt with me, it was more professional level, where I'm the detective and he's the guy who's under arrest. And he was always good with me. He and I talked, and he was cooperative. He didn't say much to me because he had attorneys at the time, but I never had a problem with him. I always had to arrest him or to facilitate his arrest in the precincts when he got involved in the Club New York shooting, and when he got into the Steve Stout investigation with MTV, and a few other things that they called me on. People always labeled me as Diddy's detective, because every time something happened with him, they called me.
They labeled you Diddy's detective?
Yeah.
Wow. Anything, we hear about these allegations involving sex trafficking. Was there ever anything that you saw back then that gave you pause?
No, I never saw Puffy or P. Diddy dealing with this sex trafficking allegations. That never happened with us. It was more where he got involved in such an assault or a shooting that he was involved with. But it was different back then, again, as I told you. The rap music was different than it is now. Now things are a lot different. You have social media. You have a lot of these rappers that are coming out on social media now, and they're more important than old school rappers.
Yeah.
And we're having so many of them.
Right,
so there's so many cases, and social media brings out a lot of things and especially with the rap music industry, as far as these beefs, these wars that they have, these disputes, they come out more frequently now.
Laura's been looking all day trying to figure out where P. Diddy is. I mean, you've been working all sorts of sources.
Right.
And do you have any, I mean, do you think he's a flight risk?
I don't think he's a flight risk because he has high-powered attorneys. So he's not going to go far, but he's probably staying at an undisclosed location, laying low until his lawyers advise him.
The hip-hop cop revealed that there was a special unit called a rap unit in the police force that investigated growing crimes involving rappers in the 90s. Now, Diddy had always been a person of interest, but they was never able to pin any crimes on him, probably because of his top-of-the-line legal team always swooping in and bailing him out. That, plus bribes.
To the details, Annalise. Hey, Chrissy, Syra. So that's not all. Some new documents were released today in a civil suit that were amended this morning, and it involves some serious allegations, including sex trafficking, drugs, guns, not only against Diddy, but against his son, that alleged mule that you were just talking about, and another superstar, Cuba Gooding Jr. But again, the new piece to this puzzle here visually is that body camera video. Let's take you over to that video so you can see for yourself. Now, this is Brendan Paul. He was arrested for possession of cocaine and marijuana gummies, and this is unrelated to that larger investigation by the feds, but Paul is named one of several civil lawsuits filed against Diddy as a drug mule working for the music mogul. So this arrest that you're seeing is separate from all of that, just for possession of these drugs, marijuana and cocaine. So now over at Diddy's home, still no sight of him all morning long. Thursday morning, a similar scene outside of Sean Diddy Combs' home as days prior. A black SUV blocking the driveway with umbrellas open to conceal the home. Our cameras rolling as Diddy's private jet is taxied away at Opa-locka's airport, yet still no sign of the superstar days after federal agents raided both his LA and Miami homes. The attention comes after both East and West Coast homes of 54-year-old were raided by federal agents simultaneously. The New York native, part of a sex trafficking investigation headed by NYC federal prosecutors. This comes after a series of civil lawsuits from former girlfriends and a music producer that worked with the music mogul. In a late February civil suit filed 73 pages alleging misconduct by the star and associates of underage sex trafficking, drug-fueled sex abuse, intimidation, and violence.
Well, that ain't all of it. The feds have finally found a way to incriminate Diddy for everything he's done over the past 30 years. Now they're taking this opportunity to charge him for all the crimes he's ever been suspected of committing. In recent developments, Diddy's alleged drug mules have also been arrested and offered immunity for testifying against Diddy.
They rich. They're gonna have a lot of electronics. They're gonna have a lot of laptops. They're gonna have a lot of computer stuff around there. A lot of times, people gotta be smart. You cannot hide anything on no laptop. So if they was that dumb to put any videos or anything on any of those type of electronics, you understand, it's gonna come to the forefront. Now, what they're looking for, because it was going on the premises of sex trafficking. They're looking for pictures of girls that may appear to be underage in a sexual context. Like they in a sexual act. That's what they're looking for. So now, they're gonna go through all those devices. If somebody got any kind of weird fetishes that they got little kids or little girls or something like that, in any kind of pictures or any kind of photos that they took out of there, then unless that individual was in the picture, who do you charge? Because the houses wasn't in his name. They was in companies' names that they could say all people had all kinds of access to them. Unless somebody testify that that's Diddy's room, nobody goes in that room but him. You understand what I'm saying? That's when they get the help to come in, the maid to come in. You understand? Or the people who work there, yo, where's Mr. Combs' room? Oh, that's Mr. Combs' room. You understand what I'm saying? That's Mr. Combs' room. He only want anybody allowed in that room, yo, not unless Mr. Combs is there. They get those people to testify. But when they got a big ass mansion like that belongs to studios or Bad Boy Films and his daughter and stuff like that.
On that note, the feds are building a stronger case against Diddy by bringing in all the people seen in the footage recovered from his homes. Now these people are being offered immunity in exchange for helping to better the case against the music mogul.
Biggie and Puffy are here tonight. Did you see them? Do you have anything to say to them at all?
Nah, but even if we saw them, we are businessmen. We are not animals. It's not like we're gonna see them and rush them and jump on them. If they see us and they want drama, we're gonna definitely bring it like only Dev Row could bring it. But we here as businessmen to enjoy and
support the
Video Music Awards for MTV because they support us. So if they want to come and use this business opportunity to get on some gangster, you know, we do that better than anybody.
Can you envision a day when, you know, y'all, if not get together and make an album, just peacefully coexist?
There's no dream of making an album with Biggie and Puffy or none of them. We're not sweating it like that.
This is our
we,
family.
We
over
peacefully
here.
coexist right now
That's
because we all cool. Everybody's here. They sell records. We sell records. Well, I guess you could call that selling records. What they do, we sell large amounts of records, and they sell a few records. And really, it's no competition. People are really making too much out of it.
And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, this is gonna help the feds open up a case into Tupac's murder. You know, that's on the ever-growing list of things that Diddy's been accused of doing. And one of them is ordering a hit on the biggest name in the rap game.
He's trying to help me with the shit I be saying. I say crazy shit in my mouth for no reason. Oh wait, maybe I said that shit about Puffy because he got Tupac killed. I thought it was for no reason. You understood that.
Just goes to show that when Diddy's got a problem with anybody, he'd rather resort to criminal means to get it done with. Is this the fall of Puff Daddy? Indications say yes.